Hey, how's it going?
Pretty good.
Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you perfectly fine.
Awesome. Thanks so much for taking the time.
No problem.
So, we're with the International Dyslexia Association Oregon branch, and we have a special guest tonight. I'll let you introduce yourself.
Aloha, my name is Anna Davide, and I am from the Hawai'i Branch of the International Dyslexia Association.
So, what's really cool about you is this is the first time we've ever had somebody from another branch on the show, and you come all the way from Hawaii, so that's really cool. Can you start by sharing a little bit of your story, where you're at in school, and what you're doing?
All right. Hi, my name is Anna. I am a super senior, so I'm entering into my first semester of my fifth year in college, which will be my last. I am double majoring in public health and Philippine studies with two different minors. Uh, and I want to be a doctor. Um, yeah.
All right, I'm gonna have you say that one more time so the audience can hear, because your story is really impactful. I want them to hear what you're studying.
All right. I'm studying public health, which is really applicable at the moment. And I'm also studying Philippine studies. So I'm half Lithuanian and half Filipino. So it's really common to have people who are mixed here in Hawaii. And yeah, so I was diagnosed with dyslexia in middle school, but I didn't believe it until high school. Like, I didn't think I actually had the diagnosis until much later.
Okay, so tell me about tell me about how you were diagnosed. Like, what was that setup like?
So I was diagnosed with dyslexia when I entered into Asset School. Asset School is the one school on the island that has, it's mainly built for students with ADHD, dyslexia, people who are gifted and talented, um, or other types of learning disabilities like that. And so when you enter the school, you have an evaluation by Sandy Tadaki, who is the head administrator, and she diagnosed me as dyslexic. But previous to that, I thought I was just ADHD. So it, and like I mentioned, it took me until senior of high school to really realize that a lot of the academic problems I had were also from the dyslexia.
So, were you okay? Did you receive accommodations once you were diagnosed, or were you pushing that away?
So I so assets, all the accommodations were there on a silver platter. That is what the school is built for.
Okay.
Then so I was there from sixth grade until freshman year, and then the school was so small. Like, our graduating class was of 23 people, and I wanted to move, so I went to public school, where our graduating class was 600, and I had no accommodations from the public school system. So I was medicated for the ADHD and I was doing really well in classes, but because I was doing well, and it was hard for me to try, um, but I wasn't given a IEP, which is an individualized learning plan, or the 504,
Yeah.
uh, and I didn't receive accommodations from a school system until college. So assets gave, high school, public school didn't. Then I go to public university here, University of Hawai'i, and they gave me accommodations.
Okay, we're gonna jump to that, but I wanna step back for a second with your story
Yeah.
because I think this is really impactful. So if you're just joining, we're with the International Dyslexia Association Oregon branch and Hawaii branch today. Drop us a line if you have questions. We're here to help. Talking to a future doctor here, and
Hopefully.
well, talk to me about going to school without accommodations and how was that challenging, or
Yeah.
were you able to kind of just do your
It,
thing?
it was challenging because when I entered into public school, public high school, I didn't know where I was going for college. And it was really important for me to have that validation from the school system that I had what I had, right? The dyslexia. I wanted recognition from that because I it I did really well in school, but that was because I wanted to prove to myself that I was smart, right? There's that thing of not feeling like you're on par with everyone else. I didn't like having the big classes. I felt really lost in them. So I took a lot of EP classes, because I was terrified of them and I thought they were too hard, but they had less students in them. So I chose to go that path. But as a result, it was just really difficult for me. But the AP teachers were really open. They were just objectively better educators for my style. And I advocated for what I needed. So I asked, can I sit outside while I take tests? Or they would let me come in at separate periods to do extended time. And they were just really open to those needs.
So I want to recap this for the audience in case they missed. Dyslexic student in the classroom, no accommodations.
Yeah.
I'm going to take the hardest classes that I can possibly take.
Yeah.
And make life really, really challenging for me, because if it isn't already hard enough without accommodations.
Yeah.
Well,
I took AP English, like I took AP literature and AP language, English language, because of the dyslexia, I hated writing so much that I would throw up. Like I would fake being sick so that I wouldn't have to go in the next day and like turn in an assignment. But I did it.
That's amazing.
I graduated high school eventually,
which is really important. Which we need to finish that part of the story. I want to get this question answered on the line. In retrospect, what was more helpful, small classes or accommodations?
I think it's a mixture of both, because looking at it now, I was able to adjust, but I know not everybody would be able to adjust. It's more of the advocacy of knowing what you need. Yeah. And so small classes help with being able to get those accommodations, because from the teacher's perspective, there's just less students. And so it's easier for them to be able to keep their eyes on you. Yeah.
So I have 2 points that I want to touch on, and you mentioned both, but did you feel, so I remember being in the classroom feeling dumb or stupid. Yeah. Did you have those same reactions? Because I think a lot of our students,
I feel it constantly. And it shaped that feeling of thinking you're stupid or thinking that you're dumb has kind of shaped the way that I am as a person, in the sense that I'm trying to constantly do things and be useful and be active to fight that feeling.
Do you find that you ever win that battle?
It's just acknowledgement that I'm not. And I think maybe within the past year, I think I'm on the winning edge. It's not going to get any easier, because going down the grad school route, I want to go into epidemiology, and then the eventual med school route, even people without dyslexia still feel like that in higher education. So I think it's just awareness.
So if you're on the line, if you're a student, if you're a parent of a student, or even if you're a teacher working with students, that feeling is natural. I think we can all agree that we, as dyslexics, as people that have dealt with learning challenges, that we're all faced with that feeling of feeling dumb and feeling the shame that comes, I think, with a learning challenge, and yeah, that taking up time. But if you have more questions on the subject, please reach out. So I want to touch on one more thing from you. When did you learn to advocate for yourself, and how was that process?
That came a lot from Asset School. So I'm really lucky, because we have that school on island, and their entire thing was be a self-advocate. And my boyfriend, who we switched school. So when I left Assets, he entered. So even now in our relationship, when I have problems, he says, what do you need to do? I'm like, I need to self-advocate. So it's something that stayed consistent. And that's something that being taught at Assets, seeing that all those opportunities were given to me to do so there, it followed up with when I eventually went into the public school system. I advocated and didn't receive some of the things that I needed from some teachers and received it from others. It kind of validated that it's better to try than not. And in college, the classes that I did the worst in were the ones where I was too afraid to advocate. where I felt too intimidated to. So it follows you forever to just kind of speak out. Like, it's okay to do that for yourself.
Can I ask what intimidated you about speaking out in those classes?
So in college, TAs are not teachers, but they're forced to be teachers. And so for a lot of them, I just felt too scared to ask for help because there'd be just like a mass of other students asking for help. And I felt like my questions would be irrelevant to them. Like, there would be other avenues that I could find help. But some things like math and science, you just need another person to teach you that. I need to be handheld through equations a couple of times until I understand how to do the math. So it just things like that. It depends on the subject.
We got a question on the line. Did you have support from your family going through this?
Yes and no. So mom, my mom, frankly, is a medical doctor. I have a single parent. And then I have my grandmother, who was a college teacher back in the Philippines. My grandmother was not supportive whatsoever. Like, we lived together, the three of us. My grandmother, with the ADHD stuff, is constantly like, did you take your medicine? Oh, you're forgetting things because you didn't take your medicine. So it was a lot of, she only recently realized that this isn't going to change. But she would say the things of, this didn't exist when I used to teach in the 60s, which wasn't helpful. But my mom, recognizing that this isn't her wheelhouse when it came to a person's well-being, was really helpful in terms of helping me find resources, really open with teachers. And she had a very hands-off approach. Yeah. So I made a lot of the decisions. She didn't make the decision for me to go to public school. I made that decision myself. So yeah.
How empowering was that?
It was pretty empowering. And I think it's also just part of the fact that you have a single parent. Like, you just have to make decisions for yourself, and fill that gap to some degree.
So you go on, you graduate, you're in college, you're getting support in your current.
Yeah.
And are you comfortable sharing some of the?
I am okay with all questions.
Okay. So can you share for the audience some of the accommodations that work best for you?
Right. So University of Hawai'i has the Kokua program. Kokua means help in Hawaiian. And there are Disabilities and Accommodations Center, and they are amazing. I sent in my diagnosis and those forms, and they immediately allowed me in the program. And they are the midway between you and your professors, or your TAs. And I have extended time, and I also am allowed to use their site to take all my tests. So I'm alone.
Nice.
Which helps because I stand up while I take tests. So I'll be standing up and doing that.
Well, I think you'd be standing up if you're being a doctor, right? You're going to be...
Yeah. Depends on what kind of doctoring you're doing. If you're a surgeon, definitely. If you're family practice, probably sitting down. If you're a psychiatrist, definitely sitting down.
But there's going to be movement. It's going to be...
Yeah. So yeah, extended time. They help be the intermediary between you and your lecturer. And they offer a lot of other things too. I have friends who they're legally blind, and they receive accommodations. They have note takers in the classroom, so they have funding to hire note takers, which is really helpful in big lecture courses. So I've taken advantage of that. They've digitized textbooks for me, because it's really helpful to physically scan, or right, you click on the PDF and you can highlight it.
Yeah.
So they've had an immense amount of support for me, and all of their students, and they have a great relationship between the educators at the university.
On that note, how is the interaction between you and the other students?
I mean, it's college, so it's huge. So, but this comes from the ADHD side, and where I'm just very disruptive in a classroom setting. I am loud, I sneeze a lot, I can't sit still, so I'm constantly shifting. So there's that part where it's great to have the accommodation of being away from people. In fact, I'm really looking forward to having online classes so that I can be myself and not worry about disrupting others. But again, study groups are really helpful. Sometimes they're not, because I notice that my peers are going through work a lot quicker than I am. A lot of people notice that I'm dyslexic once I say it. I have trouble pronouncing words, or I get caught up with the auditory stuff. I'm bilingual, so that sometimes I mix up the languages when I shouldn't.
That was one question on the line right now is, do you sight read or do you ear read?
I've never heard of ear reading.
So like iBook or iBooks on tape or
audio.
Audio, yeah.
Yeah. I like audio more. So I listen to a lot of podcasts to get news, right? If I want to learn more about a subject, I'll try to find audio. Reading is hard, just in general. It's been getting harder over time. And a good example I would give for that is I learned organic chemistry without the textbook.
Okay, that's going to need a little bit of a context or explanation.
Yeah. So it was a huge struggle for me trying to read the textbook and learn from the textbook. And so what I did was I befriended the OChem tutor, ditched the textbook altogether, and did it through like online video lectures and through her. And that's how I got through.
That's amazing.
There's a lot of just like alternative ways of learning that I had to find to make it work.
So on that note, what advice would you give? So one, we have a student who's part of our student panel. She would love to be a doctor. I think like your route. What advice would you have for her? And then what advice would you have in general for our students that are like going through it right now?
So, especially just first thing when you have the start of your semester, meet with your professors. Even if you don't think you're going to like them, meet with your professor. If you don't think the learning style of that professor is going to work out, feel free to drop out of the class and find another lecturer. I've taken withdrawals for classes that the lecture style just did not work for me. If money is an issue, then unfortunately you might have to suffer through it to graduate on time if you have to do it within, if you have to graduate within a certain amount of time. But I'm graduating later because I needed to take my time for certain things. So don't feel shame. The pre-med track is very toxic because everybody feels like they're competing with each other. But don't feel ashamed to take your time and take the path you need. Like, I need to go to grad school first, just for my own sanity before going into med school. And for all other students, is just have a relationship with your professor. Make sure they know your name and your face, so that if you need anything, you'll have some sort of rapport.
So that relationship, it's important. It pays off in the end, for sure. Yeah. I like that. So what do you do for fun? Like, I know you're intense. I know you're a worker, but how do you get your relaxation?
I just found a hobby.
Okay.
I just found a hobby. I paint miniatures.
You paint miniatures.
Yeah.
All right.
So,
are you sharing this with us? It's gonna be great.
Yeah. So this is a small dragon that I painted.
Oh my gosh.
I'm bad at drawing, but I learned that 3D is better for me.
Okay.
There's also this one.
Whoa. So how do you make those? Is that clay or is that?
No. So it's Dungeons and Dragons miniatures that you can paint. There's also Warhammer 40K, which is a online thing. So I paint miniatures. I finally found a hobby, and
That's amazing.
that's the one.
So the word on the street though is you might be a good, like, you might be into cooking. Is that
Yes.
yes?
So I found a bunch of flowers and I'm drying them for dye.
Oh god.
My newest goal is to try to dye dough. I want to make blue dough for bread.
Oh
So
my.
yeah,
Of course you do.
yeah, yeah. Right outside my campus, there's a ton of those flowers that I've been ignoring until I got the heads up that they're actually used for dye. And so I've been collecting them and giving away the seeds, and I've been going insane trying to make that happen.
That's awesome. You have to share. You have to come back on the show and share the bread.
Oh yeah, no, definitely.
Uh, so what if you had a message for educators and teachers that are online? What would you like them to know?
So I think the first and foremost thing is that you can't just ADHD and dyslexia are not like other types of disabilities where it's you can notice it physically. So for a lot of it, it's invisible to your students. If they haven't communicated to you, you might not know that you have a dyslexic or ADHD student in the classroom. Or alternatively, you might have an ADHD dyslexic student who doesn't know that they are and are struggling. But I think it would be more of be aware of universal design for learning. And where things that will work best for your students who are struggling the most, those types of methodologies, that type of alternative learning, even just applying that to your classroom will benefit the rest of your students as well. Learning styles are kind of changing based off of the attention span of people in our generation in general. So those type of techniques that would benefit students who are dyslexic or ADHD, it will benefit everyone else as well.
So cool. And so I always like to leave the closing remark to the guest. Do you have, what's your vision for the world, or what would you look?
What's my vision for the world? I think more my vision for dyslexia and ADHD is that it doesn't go away on the weekends.
Yeah.
Reminding people that I think especially for students and as we're growing up, like when you look for resources, it's usually for kids who are in elementary school or middle school. And then as you're moving into adulthood, you see that those parts of the learning differences affect your personal life, right? It's like in conversations or in dating or
reading a menu.
Yeah, just reading a menu, or just general pronunciation of words. But I think it doesn't go away on the weekends, and I think just learning to transition with that as a person, and also don't take for granted the things that you can capitalize on as a person with those types of differences.
Well said. That is a message that I think definitely resonates with me, and I hope resonates with our audience as we close out tonight. Anna, you're an inspiration. What you're doing is so awesome on so many levels. What you're paving a pathway for students that you're never going to even meet, by continually going down this path. So we thank you. We thank you for your time tonight, and we wish you all the best in your endeavors.
Thank you so much. Mahalo.
Mahalo.
All right. Aloha. Thank you. Bye-bye.